Hello, everyday leaders. Today is Sunday. I am so confused on the days. I always look at my calendar here. It is May 31st. Wow, 10 weeks into this COVID-19 pandemic, and it is about ready to we're bursting out now. So many things are happening. So much is changing. I haven't been on here in the last few days, but I'm bringing value to you today with everyday leaders because there's a lot of summits, a lot of virtual summits, a lot of training, a lot of leadership training. And people are signing up for all kinds of programs because, even though we've been told you can take your mask off, we still have to figure out how we're going to get back out and live our normal life. And so I have a friend today with me, Rosa Ponce, and she is doing something really fabulous. So I wanted her to share what she's doing and, oh my goodness, how you need to get involved, because if you're looking for value, wow, this program we're going to talk about is going to really help you understand how to take power back in your life, especially at work, but everything that we talk about, you can do in your life as well. So Rosa, thank you very much for joining me, Melanie Ake, and Everyday Leaders today and sharing your story.
Melanie, thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be on your platform to be able to talk about this amazing event that you actually also are a part of and have been added value is your topic, and you've certainly done that for the show.
This is amazing. I think of people in COVID-19, there were many people that lost their jobs or that they had to work at home for the first time in their lives. And they all said, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to figure it out. And I've got 2 or 3 kids at home. I've got kids going through graduation. Everything in the world has changed. And how am I going to deal with it? And so in the middle of this, you came up with this idea. Mm-hmm. So talk about when you say, Stop Feeling Powerless at Work. That's the title of your series that's coming out. So what kind of inspired you to say, I think people need to really understand this. I need to help them through this.
I think that yearning was there for a long time, and COVID kind of just brought us to a place where as a world, we just stopped, and it's kind of a time of reset for so many people. And so we wanted to capitalize on it. And the team and I, we ramped up really quickly to put this summit together. And there were experts like you, 23 in total, who believe that culture can be changed at work. I think a lot of us go to work and, we're at a point where we have so much value to bring, so much offer. There's a lot of people out there that want to lead and want to do a great job. And for whatever reason, the culture's kind of set in place and you don't find your home very easily. And you're working with people that kind of just punching in and punching out at this time. And that's just the way it is. And you feel powerless to change it. And every single one of these experts believes that you can change the culture. And so we brought people together that are going to talk about mindset issues. How am I contributing to the problem? Because that's a new one, right? We never think it's me. I'm great. And so we start with ourselves and then work our ways toward influencing. And every single one of the experts has far exceeded the value that they bring to the table because they're so passionate about this topic. And as an added bonus, really decent people. So I'm honored that I even got to interact and have this project connection with everyone. But let me tell you a little bit about myself and where I come from, because I think it'll make more sense as to why this was so important. So I'm in a career in a male-dominated industry for over 20 years. I was recruited right out of college. I did my undergraduate at UCLA, and I was working at a police department locally in LA that served the projects, the housing developments. And I started there my career and have been in different agencies. And so it's a male-dominated industry where I felt very comfortable and very competitive, but I just was never going to be one of the guys. And I didn't want to be. These are people that I cared about and respected, but I didn't necessarily fit in, into certain things, certain interactions. Mm-hmm. And I didn't try to do that, but then there was never really a place to be. So what I learned is that people in power set structure and rules according to their strengths. And there's certain things like, for example, a specialty assignment in law enforcement is SWAT. I don't want to be living off of protein and creatine and things to join a unit like that, even though I feel like I'm a high achiever. So I never wanted to give up my identity to be in a unit like that. And I was totally okay with that. But then there was other spots that after a while, even though I'm competitive, I'm not not always as competitive and seen for my qualities and my attributes and what I bring and the value that I have. So I just needed to realize that I needed to stop fitting in. And that's what I was doing wrong. I was trying too hard to just go with the flow. And I realized there's more to me than this. And it's not up to them to bring it out of me. It's not their fault that this isn't coming out. And there was a little bit of self-sabotage there where you feel like your organization should really believe in you and bring your greatness out of you. And there is something to that, but that's not where the power is. The power is when you realize that you know what you bring to the table and you show them what you bring to the table. And then they realize, oh, I didn't know this was in you. And this is when people start realizing, okay, now I know how I can use you here. And so I went through an entire transition where I was blaming others. I was blaming the organization and I was frustrated and I knew I had a lot to offer. And I just had to go through a self makeover and it changed everything. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten into coaching over the last few years. I've helped people who have struggled in the similar way and who also just needed a little bit of a boost and a reminder that they can be confident and that they're not wrong to feel like they're overlooked, but that there's a way around that. And so what I realized is that not just in my industry, but in so many other industries, the same exact thing was happening. I helped nurses, I helped church teachers, people in journalism, people in corporate. And I realized, man, this is a leadership issue that is kind of happening everywhere. And so we all need to come to the table. I've been on teams where I'm the leader and I come to the team and have these great ideas. And they're looking at me like, okay, well, tell us what you need us to do. And it's like, no, you guys are the experts. Like, let's go get this done. And so I realized that we, in some cultures, have trained those teams to just be like, okay, whatever you need, versus bringing their identities and their uniqueness to the table and really making great things. Mm. So I think that there's leaders out there who struggle with cultural issues that really have vision and creativity, but maybe don't know how to connect with people. I know that there's people out there who want to connect with their leaders and don't know how. And so what we've done is we've invited everyone to the table. We have experts that directly work with leaders, with corporate leaders all in. I have an expert who is a retired military high-ranking official, and he talks to leaders regularly. I've got people who are coaches to JB Braden. He's a coach to softball women, young adults, and he teaches CEOs, and he brings that perspective. And so there's a lot of uniqueness even in the panel and how they approach this issue. So all that to say, culture can be changed, and that's why we're here. And you don't have to feel powerless. You're giving away your power and you don't even know it in some ways. And after you watch this summit, you're going to realize what you've been doing wrong, but you're also going to know how to fix it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important because, many of us are going to go back to a world that we say there's going to be a new normal. And so what if you could take these skills, listen to these 23 speakers and take one skill back to your environment when you go back to your work? And change that and then say, right, oh my goodness, I can start something. I can create something. I can, ask for that raise. I can ask for that opportunity to create something that's bigger that you see, and I think the reflection of stepping into a summit like this and really write notes and take journal notes and be able to say, how do I apply this? Right. Not just watching it, but man, if you can apply a strategy, it can change your life.
Right. And one of the themes you're going to find is that it's little incremental steps. We want to see this big problem as overwhelming. And it is overwhelming. When you're in it, it feels overwhelming. And you think I've got to have this great big solution to come at this. And it's not about that. It's about little changes. It's about those reflections. It's about those journal aha moments that you're going to have where you realize, you know what, I've totally been doing that wrong. And I can decide today to stop doing that. And there you go. Problem solved. It's that simple. In some cases. And in other cases, it's developing new habits. But with a proper plan, which a lot of experts focus on that, you can accomplish those new habits and you can be different and you can come to work and feel powerful and effective and feel proud of the work that you do again.
I think that's the thing too, right? So many people have been in jobs for many years and COVID-19 happened and they may not be prepared or they may be ready for retirement and saying, well, I'm just going to give it up, right? It doesn't matter. Right. I can't make a difference. And so if you take ownership in this journey, I think that's the key part is, wow, you can have a whole new life. You can have a whole second career, right?
Right.
Based on your attitude about this.
Well, not only that, but even if you're a short timer, you're getting ready to retire, like you have this legacy that you've been building. Everybody has a legacy, well, whether it's a highly forgettable one or not, right? And you can really turn around and say, you know what, I have 6 months left, or I have 2 years left, and you can really leave some sage wisdom behind for the new generation. Because that's kind of my role. I'm about 6 years from retiring from my day job, I call it, and I still love it, and I love the new generation. But what I love the most is knowing that I can invest into them so that they can be prepared for tomorrow's future. And that brings me to another point, because part of this summit, we are talking about, there are experts who are looking at 5-10 years down the line. What is the workplace going to look like? And what kind of skill sets do I need to have today to succeed in that workplace? And so we look for that. And I think if you do the present correctly, the future will take care of itself. A lot of people are really worried about what the changes ahead, and they really feel that this uncertainty. And at the end of the day, you have giftings, you have uniqueness, you have powerful things to offer the workplace. And if you can just be secure and know how to take a deep breath when you need to, and I say that lightly, but really breath, you're going to hear in this summit how important just breathing is, and how if you're intentional with your breathing in certain critical moments, it can make all the difference, and you can succeed and get your head back and understand what's going on in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you that are scared for the future, you got to watch this. There's a lot that you can gain from it.
Well, and as I know what's been going on behind the scenes, and I hear you talk, I think, okay, so we're on one end of the spectrum when we're saying, if you've been a seasoned employee and you have these skills and you really want to go back in and change this perception and change your attitude and change your environment. But for these new workers, right, the millennials that are coming out of college that are saying,
Right.
okay, I just graduated. I didn't get to go through my normal graduation, but now I'm going
Right.
back. I'm going into the workplace for the first time.
Right.
Ooh,
That's
right?
true. I don't want to neglect that group. And we're talking Gen Z even. I feel old when I start looking at date of births with some of my younger peers, and I'm happy because they're just happy to be there. And a lot of you are ready and itching to get into that workforce and really change the world. And I remember that year. I was so idealistic. I thought everything could be done, and it can. but you do need guidance. You do need proper perspective, and you do need help. And I think that would prevent for you a lot of disappointment. And if by being in this series, you avoid that, 5-7 year dip in your career where you're like, why am I even doing this again? You forget your why. This summit can really boost your preparedness and your entry into the workforce. And I think if you do take it seriously, you do take some journal notes. You may not connect with having been seasoned, but I think because of social media and just media and in general, you see so much more than we ever had access to.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably have strong opinions and beliefs about what's going on out there and haven't even hit the workforce yet.
Mm-hmm.
In my profession, we haven't been painted in the best light. We're seeing it today, and there's people that still want to work with us. And I'm always amazed at people who answer the call in light of that, because you really have a heart for this and you really want to be there. And there's something great about you that brings you to that calling. And so I honor anyone who's sitting there at home knowing they have a calling and have a lot to offer and want the guidance. I would highly encourage you to join us.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think always you think about as a leader, who was that one person that you said, oh my gosh, if I had just listened to them earlier in my career, earlier in my life, if I just would have been open to saying, okay, different perspective, right? Suck up the pride and go back and say, okay, if I just try this, if I'm open to it, you can learn so much as just being a receiver instead of, the one that has to conquer it all. Because we all go into our careers in the world saying, all right, I'm the only one that can fix it the way I need it to be done.
Right.
Right.
And I'll look at that in two ways. One is I can think of countless times when people came to me with great advice and I just was not in a position to listen. I wasn't humble and I wasn't seeking the right advice. I was looking in all the wrong places. I was distracted by all the wrongs that I thought were happening. And I didn't hear those people. And I wish I had, because they would have saved me a lot of grief. I would have saved myself a lot of grief. But on the other hand, if you're sitting there thinking, that there's not something you can do today, you can do something today. And everything that we're going to share with you is with that effort of saying today you can apply this and make yourself better and more prepare yourself to come into the workforce and really, really impact the situation.
Impact. That's exactly right. I'm going to put on the screen right now, Rosa. So tell us about the series is called Stop Feeling Powerless at Work. And to sign up for this event, where do we go?
So you go to stopfeelingpowerlessatwork.com. That's going to go live tomorrow, June 1st. And the registration period will continue through the summit. But the 2 weeks that we were going to register and we'll interact with you during those 2 weeks is going to be June 1st to June 14th. Tell your friends, invite whoever you want. Stop feeling powerless at work. It's absolutely free. Just enter your name and your email and you'll have free access. We will actually go live with the event. Actually, it'll be pre-recorded, but we're going to send you an email each day beginning on June 15th. From June 15th to July 5th, you will have access to a pre-recorded interview and some extra bonuses. And you'll also have access to our pop-up Facebook group where we will interact with you. I'll personally answer questions. I've invited all the experts to chime in also when they're interview lives, and you can ask questions to them and they can answer you. So we're trying to make this as supportive as possible for people that are in situations where they really need a lifeline. And so we've brainstormed and come up with every possible way that we can help you. That is our goal and that is our heart. So hopefully you can join us.
Yep. So I brought the website up here. If you just go here, stopfeelingpowerlessatwork.com, this is where you can register. So this is what you're going to see in an introduction video from Rosa. And so do that, put this on your calendar, get signed up, because this is going to be an amazing transformation for so many people. And, even if you can't watch all 23 speakers, if you can just get involved and get on the Facebook group and really start connecting, start asking those questions, because there's got to be a resource within 24 people that can really start to answer some of those questions that you may have. And if you have the question, there's somebody else out there that has it as well.
Absolutely. Right? Yes. I think that's part of being in this situation. I hate to keep going if we're done, but sometimes people look around, is anybody seeing what I'm seeing? And you feel like, man, am I alone in what I see? And I think that's the first part of when you start to isolate yourself and really get into this dark bubble. So yes, probably other people are experiencing the same exact thing, but they're just as isolated and you're not talking to each other. So we want to change that.
Yes, we want to change that. I think it's amazing. I really applaud you for putting this together, because like anybody else, we say these live events have had to come to a halt since February or March 12th, March 13th. And the things that we're doing that are virtual are really, really empowering people, because you say you're in your home environment, you can be cooking or, journaling and sitting in your favorite chair. You don't have to go to an event and pay the money and travel. You're really relaxed. So get relaxed, watch these videos, step into growth, because this is really the time that can say, what am I going to do with the next 1 year? What am I going to do with the next 5 years? And start planning for your goals. This is really going to help you do that.
Yes, absolutely. I highly encourage you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I want to put the website up here again. If people are just joining us, this is, I want you to go to stopfeelingpowerlessatwork.com, register for this event where you can get involved, be included in the Facebook page, and all of these 23 videos that are going to be happening from June 15th to July 5th. And you're really going to learn a lot. We want to connect with you. And Rosa, you have just been an amazing person to work with. The ideas in creating something like this, saying if you had to do a live event, all of the other things that you'd have to be thinking about and, and worrying about. Here you get to focus on content, delivery, adding value, making sure that people are being taken care of as they register. So we really appreciate you, because it is not an easy thing to do. When those of us that have planned events before, there's just so many things that you want to make sure people are getting the message. And you have just been wonderful as a host.
Well, and I gotta say, the idea got a lot of traction. I think a lot of people see what's going on and want to help. So the experts came along. I scheduled the interviews, and I had people were showing up for the interviews on time. We were knocking them out. I had to schedule them during a week, and people really made it easy that were just envision something different for our world. Our world is hurting and we need to come together. And there's people that are ready to lead differently, that are ready to apply the things and find solutions and apply those solutions that aren't being done by other people. And I remember what I wanted to say earlier. Sometimes I used to complain, like, why isn't leadership taking care of this thing that I'm seeing? It's so obvious to me. But my skill set and my ability to recognize problems was different than theirs. And I would get so frustrated. And it's like, Rosa, you're a leader too. You can go and fix that. What's wrong with your hands? And so I think a lot of people have great ideas and want to apply situations, and maybe they don't know how to work through those conversations with their leaders or how to sell themselves. And we have experts that specifically address situations like that, scenarios where you're coming into the room and you don't know what's going on the other side. You think you're saying all the right things, but your focus is all wrong, and you're not getting your message across. So those experts are going to help you get that done. So there's ways that you can be more productive if you just have the right guidance, and that's what we're bringing together. And then my team has been incredible. I'm working with a team that's helping me put this together, and their ideas about how to support you are absolutely incredible. The pop-up group was not my idea, but when they pitched it, I said, we got to do that. That sounds like absolutely important to this. So
yeah, it is, because it's the support behind it, right? It's just like taking any other class, and you say, well, what is that going to look like? Well, it's not just sign up and watch this. It's really a community that you're building.
Right. And because people need to talk to each other. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know that my experience is not as unique as I thought. And this is a world problem. So let's go ahead and connect with one another and see what we can do to make a difference.
This is wonderful. I've got a list here. I was going to just read off the names because I think it's always great to include everybody that's been a part of this. So, so if I start this, do you want to say a couple things about each?
Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely. Okay.
So,
I feel like they're my friends now.
Yeah. Alicia Bear.
Alicia Bear. She is the client whisperer, I believe. Right. She's the one that's going to teach us how to come into the room and really know how to understand the other person's perspective and help them solve our problem, right? So get that, when you come up with an idea and you sell the idea so well that the other person thinks it's their idea, that's kind of how I see that. And she even tricks me on the interview. So you got to watch that interview just to see her stumble me through it, work through a situation and realize how much I need to work on this.
That's awesome. And so we've got 23, but Brooke Sydney Harbor.
Brooke Sydney Harmer is an attorney, and she's also a spiritual wellness coach. She's absolutely amazing. She's right here in Southern California. We're very close to one another, and she's going to be amazing. She really has her own experience in the workforce that she can speak to, and obviously as an attorney, she's very sound in her thinking, and you're going to get a lot of value from her as well.
That's awesome. Chris Netsky.
He is an 8th degree black belt. He's amazing. He's a national champion, and he's been retired for many years. So he's seen a lot of decades of stuff going on, but he's incredible. He's definitely going to bring a lot of the mindset of a champion. How do champions think? How do they have the discipline to see opponents regularly and to thrive and to understand, even sportsmanship, because, you don't come in and just hate people, right? You don't hate your opponent. You just want to overcome that opponent. And how does a champion think, and how do they accomplish their victories?
Wow. You can stop right there. I mean,
we can go on and on. I'm telling you, it's an amazing panel. You really don't want to miss any of them. And they do go live for 48 hours. So if you have a busy day somewhere in the middle, you have to double up the next day. You just plan ahead and get your schedule done. They're 30 to 45 minute interviews. They're not super long, but they are meaty. So definitely have your journal, write down aha moments. And we do have an all access pass that you can get if you decide that those weeks aren't very easy for you to navigate the free content. It's very inexpensive. For $47. You can have access to it all for the rest of your life.
That's awesome. All right. I am going to go through the rest of these. Claire Rogers.
Claire Rogers is amazing. She's currently out of England, but really she's originally from Canada. She talks about an amazing, she worked in corporate for many years and was high level global director of a company. And she had a breakdown where she had been giving her all and thought that that's what was expecting her. High achiever, awesome person. But she talks through how that breakdown changed her life. She also talks about how very about 30 days before that, she had encountered a grizzly bear out in the mountains and survived that encounter. So yeah, there were some things that were talking to her there that she needed to maybe make some changes. And so she's amazing. You're going to learn a lot from her as well.
Wow. Dan Murgon.
Dan Murgon, he is another person. He works with nonprofits and he also works with leaders. He's one of the people that coaches CEOs, and he's very passionate about leaders and their role in being intentional about culture. And just an understanding that they work with people and how to really help them to set the right tone in the workplace. So he's very good, very experienced, a lot of years.
Man, this is awesome. Dana Zarcone. Dana
Zarcone. She is another brainy person. I don't know how many hats that woman has. I was very impressed. But she can get into quantum physics and also talk about breath work. She's just one of those that is an expert on a lot of things. But she's got a background also in corporate for a while and then became a therapist. So she really talks to some of the issues that we carry around on the inside and how to work through some of those things.
Mm-hmm. Dan Molinda.
Dan Mullen, he was a lot of fun. He comes from a background in construction, and I connected with him because my whole family was in construction. Both of my brothers are in construction. And so he talked about his unique experiences that he started a company in his early 20s. And so he did a lot of things that as a young leader, he was not humble enough to recognize that he was in the wrong in so many ways. But now he's a coach to other leaders and has obviously broken through some of his own issues. But he'll be a lot of fun to listen to as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. My two friends here, David McGlennon and Greg Storch.
Maybe you should talk about them.
They are also
they were amazing too. Greg Storch is our expert from the military, and he's going to talk to us a lot about it. And he was an HR high level person in the corporate world after his career in the military. So he's going to give us a lot of advice of how you can succeed in your career and how you might want to approach some of the processes that we all hate. And seek proper mentorship. And who was it? David McGlennon.
David McGlennon.
He was really cool. You're going to hear a cool story about mentorship. He really holds his grandfather and his father in high regard, and you get to hear that story. So he talks about that, and he actually, a lot of companies don't do this, and because even I was like, what? A cultural plan for your company. Do you have a culture plan? I was like, I've never heard of a culture plan. He goes, exactly. Why don't companies have a culture plan? So you gotta listen to that interview to hear about it.
He's an amazing leader, I tell you. He's one of the best. Okay, Janey Lacey.
Janey Lacey, she is from the East Coast, and she is another therapist. Absolutely incredible woman. She's also a TV commentator, I believe, and she was amazing. She really talks about your secret sauce. Yeah, everybody's got one. And so she talks a lot about the experience she has dealing with people who will come to her for help from some of the issues they're facing in the workplace. And obviously a lot of what we face in the workplace, we also bring our own issues to the workplace. So, there's a little bit of both going on. So she talks a lot about how culture does affect people and affects them at home. To the point where they need to go see her. So that one's definitely one that you'll want to pay attention to also and take notes.
Gosh, I can't wait for these. J.B. Braden is next.
J.B. Braden, he's the one that's a coach to softball women. He coached many teams, but we get into a really good conversation of the difference between coaching men and coaching women. And he talks about the way that he coaches leaders today and how most of the stuff he learned coaching the youth applies to us as adults. So, and I kept laughing because I'm thinking, adolescence is probably the most forgettable time in our lives, right? We all struggle with. It's not exciting. We think we know everything, but we don't. And then as leaders, I think sometimes, we feel like maybe we're back in that age, sometimes a little bit insecurity, a little bit of, do I have it or do I not? But yet I do. And, so it was really, really enlightening to listen to JB. And he's got such a kind heart in his delivery. I really enjoyed that interview as well.
What a great message for right now when parents are starting to feel insecure for the first time, maybe, right?
Right.
Yeah. Wow. I can't wait to listen to him. Okay. Mariah Elhart.
Yeah, she's a brain expert. I'm gonna mess this up. Neurosculptor expert.
Yeah, I never heard of that before. I was like, what is that?
I had to have her explain it. So if you want to know, let's listen to her, hear from the horse's mouth on that one. Because but ultimately, she is really, she gets deep into the brain. Why do I think what I think, and what's going on behind that thought? And she really helps us to uncover what it is that we're blind to that's going on, and how we're being influenced by our own trained responses or trained thought patterns. And I mean trained because you're always training, right? If I come home every day and eat a bag of chips, I'm training myself for that bag of chips. So after a while, I don't even think about it. I just eat that bag of chips, and then I don't even know why I do it anymore. So so she gets into stuff like that, and really helps us to get a hold of how we can be powerful in how when we are intentional with our thoughts.
That is awesome. Neil Gorenflo.
Oh, he was a lot of fun too. Neil Grunflo. He is an expert. He also had some very cool titles in his day job, I want to call it. But he had a career in corporate, and he was global also. But his thing is, he gets so excited about innovating and creating ideas, and he really figured out how to get excitement around and bring the right people around and ideas to make it happen. And he was recognized in his corporate for that talent. He got to do a lot of cool stuff. So he's really going to teach us how to do that. And he also talks about the future a little bit, the way the workplace will be, and what kind of things are going to help you succeed in that workplace.
Oh, wow. That's so valuable.
Yes.
Bringing people and being able to influence them. That's a really great skill for anybody.
Right. And I just realized I have the wrong person, the wrong expert. Forgive me, Neil.
Oh.
I'm talking about Steve Gardullo here.
Oh. Okay,
No,
Steve.
Sorry about that. Sorry, Neil. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. But Neil, they're in the same vein. You'll understand my confusion here. Neil Gorenflo is he's the founder of Shareable. Shareable is a company that he founded because he believed that there's power in sharing, and he teaches communities to share. And we get into a deep conversation about civics and how we can be more civically minded and how we can get involved. And again, it's those little steps. It's not, we don't have to go to the White House, right? We can stay in our local community and make such a difference. And he's doing some amazing things locally. He talks about, I'm going to mess this up, but the journalism that he does is basically centered around solutions journalism. So he talks about things that are going well, that people are doing, and he really spends a lot of time showcasing that. I think we have a lot of news that we can sit there and be depressed about. You read his news, it's going to be exciting and motivating. So
that's awesome. Well, he and Neil will both be great. The next one I've got is Nicole BZ.
Nicole BZ. She is also another brainy person who likes to. She's big on getting your business dialed in. So she's going to help you to. And when we talk about a lot of our coaches deal with small businesses, but really it's the same for small teams. Right? If you have a small team within a larger organization, the dynamics are the same. You got to get stuff done, and you're going to use people to get it done. And there's going to be support systems in place, and IT solutions and things like that. So she really is going to help you to understand personalities on teams and personalities in a boardroom. So that she's going to be incredible.
That's huge. That is really, really important. Okay, Rebecca Mars. This is great.
Rebecca Mars. She had me doing yoga. Not really. She's very hands-on. She can't help herself. But so a lot of the yoga that you see, I've never done it. So I was asking her questions just because I didn't know better. It's just one of those things that I've never tried. But it always seemed like something, kind of out there for people that are real feely. And I don't know, from my perspective, right? I'm not saying everybody feels that way, but I certainly did. That's why I never tried it. But Rebecca's very, very practical in her approach. There's value to yoga. There's value to, she doesn't just do yoga. She talks also about mindset and alignment, how your body feels, listening to your body and what it's saying, and understanding how to make corrections and adjustments. And again, it's little corrections or little habits that you implement that are going to make all the difference to you just feeling whole again and feeling powerful.
Man, we all need that.
Right. No, I'm telling you, she had me So you got to watch and be ready. Be ready. You don't need a yoga mat, but you do need to be ready to get a little physical.
Gosh, mindset. It's awesome. Okay, Robin Thomas.
Robin Thomas, she comes from a background in a lab where things are very clinical and very, very specific. And she's going to share with us the story of how she had to be a stay-at-home mom to care for her young son. Then he's older now, but he had a very serious medical diagnosis where he was really struggling with his digestion, and as well as he would get panic attacks. And it was affecting the whole family just because it's a very troubling thing to deal with and to really get a grip on it. And she was very clinical with you tell me to breathe, just breathe. That'll solve it. She took that and applied it clinically. So she goes into a step process of how to do it. And she talks about the changes that created into her son. Again, those little changes made a big difference. It wasn't I'm not saying medication didn't help, but for her, she's really got a heart for these applications that you could do at home. Not everything requires medication. Like there's some things that you can do to overcome your issues. Panic issues are very serious, right? I'm not downplaying it, but you can have interventions that will make a big difference. And she's going to talk a lot. She throws out just several off the top of her head, right? There's probably more, but the ones she shares with us, you can start doing immediately and really make a difference.
That's powerful. Everybody needs that, especially during these critical times of the pandemic. We're doing things that we're not normally used to anyway. So that'll be a great strategy.
Yes.
To learn. All right. So Rudolph Goosen.
Rudolph Goosen, he was a professional rugby player. So that's his background. And so that's very cool. And he's all the way in South Africa. And he's now got several businesses, global businesses. And he's also a mentor to other businesses. So you're going to hear from his perspective. He had to overcome a very significant injury and find himself again. And so he's going to really focus on, again, that internal drive and that how you find your fulfillment. He was at the top of his game, very well known, and all these externals were influencing him. And then he realized that he needed to make a shift. So he's going to be very, very powerful as well.
Wow, man. All right. We've got a few more here. Sandra Possing.
Sandra Possing. She brought to us a perspective. Her background is in cultural anthropology, but she's done a lot more since then. So she's going to talk about mindset. I just realized my battery's running low. But Sandra was incredible. She really is going to help us to understand again our value from the mindset perspective, and talk to us about how to really reach in and have that depth, and bringing that out into the workplace.
That's awesome. All right. So Dr. Shirlene Reeves.
Dr. Shirlene, she is not only a financial person, but she also talks about uniqueness and bringing to the workplace that perspective that only you have. So she really gave us great advice at the end there about things that you can do differently, right? There's things there's a path that is set before you that you can take, but it's not necessarily going to lead you to where you think you wanted to be, or certainly when maybe you thought you wanted to be there, but when you get there, it maybe wasn't the right path. And it's because you adapted instead of saying, well, wait a minute, maybe I should just be me and let things adapt to me.
That is a great lesson.
Right?
Oh my gosh. All right. We have a couple more. Susan Bach.
Susan Bach also talked about everybody's different. But she came from a perspective of, that was one of the earlier interviews. I'm gonna brain fade a little bit, but she was really good about giving us the steps to. I remember I'm going off memory here, and I'm totally brain fading what the meaning of her steps were, but she was very good. She's very practical. She's no nonsense. She just lined it up. So she helped us work through that uniqueness and getting familiar with that path.
That's awesome. And then Tim Redmond.
Tim Redmond, he is an advisor to other. So he's in the faith-based community, and he has helped a lot of pastors and people in that community to really overhaul how they do business in the church. but more from the business side, right? Again, getting to know your people, understanding that everyone brings their own value, and how to manage different personalities and really get the most out of every person.
Man, what a great lineup. And then I'm a speaker as well.
And then you were amazing because you always talk about adding value. So your listeners will not be surprised at all the value that you brought to our panel. But you really talked about your background in the workplace also, where you had to overcome. You started very early in that generation. There wasn't a lot of women there, so you really had to break some maybe stereotypes of how business is done. But your big focus was you never lost sight of the fact that you had value yourself to add, and you didn't shy away from the fact that that needed to be heard in that workplace. And so you found a way to become useful to the people there and to make sure that you were always contributing to the overall goal. And I think a lot of that, people lose sight of it, is even though people might appear to be in conflict with what you want to do, it's not always conflict. It's just you have to overcome some of those communication sessions that you need to have by being open to, hey, that person might see it differently, but if I make myself a solution, they can't help but use me.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, for us on the other side of this, right, being a panelist, what an amazing experience, because you learn so much about yourself when you're having these kinds of conversations. And so I know we're at 41 minutes, and I thought this, but I really wanted you to dig into this because I think this is so important, Rosa, what you've done, your vision for this, having people be able to come into a community and say, I don't feel powerful. I am powerless right now. And I don't know what to do. So that's why I really appreciate you going through all of these leaders, because I think there is a strategy for everybody. And so I encourage them to go to stopfeelingpowerless@work.com.
Yes.
Register for this, sign up for this event, get a lifetime membership if that's something that you think will bring value to you. But at least watch these videos at least once, bring your friends, sign everybody up, and start feeling like you can do something different.
It's going to be amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're very excited. We've been gathering together. The momentum, like I said, it didn't require a lot of effort because people know we need this. We need to do this.
Mm-hmm. This is amazing. Well, Rosa, thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending so much time with us today. And I'm going to continue to post this. If you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, you get this on LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever you're finding this. Now go to stopfeelingpowerless@work.com and sign up.
I'm looking forward to meeting everyone. Thank you so much, Melanie. It's really an honor to be on your show.
Thank you, Rosa. Have a great rest of the weekend. And here we go, kicking off June. So good luck with the event, and we'll all be in touch.
Thank you. Take care.
You.